doctor told me basically if I don't stop, I'm gonna have Alzheimer's by the time I'm 50. Like I lost plenty of fights that I should have won because of mistakes that I made. I decided I was gonna do 150 miles and I was gonna do 50 miles a day with 70 pounds on my back with no real training. And I probably had about 9 or 10 concussions that I can remember.
Phil Daru, man, welcome to the Man of War podcast, brother. It is an honor to have you on.
Appreciate it, bro.
Thank you for taking the drive.
Of course.
And I appreciate, the fact that you're here with us, and we're going to have a great conversation today. So let's rock and roll. All right. So I've seen you on Instagram. I've seen a lot of clips, you as a fighter, before. So
yeah,
I want to I want to go right into that, man.
Sure.
How did you get into fighting?
Well, I started off playing college football. Well, really, I started off being a martial artist at like 4 to 5 years old.
Yeah.
And then I transitioned. When you get to like high school, then it's more, I'm in South Florida, so football's a way of life. Mm-hmm. And I transitioned into primarily focusing on that. And that got me to the Division I or Division I AA position. And then I ended up, once that was done, I got out of that. And then I was like, you know what, I want to compete. Yeah. Right, and I need to compete in something physical. Yeah. So my family, I'm from Fort Lauderdale area, so I'm around this area. Mm-hmm. And when I went to college, my family moved out of the situation that they were in, moved to Port St. Lucie, which is a small town in Florida. Yeah. And I was like, you know what, I want to find an area where I can actually compete and do some. I wanted to box in the beginning, and so I was looking around at gyms, and there was a couple of gyms like further away in Vero Beach. So it would have took me about an hour to get there, and I was broke. I was a broke college kid. So I'm like, all right, let me try to find something else. And then I found an American Top Team affiliate school owned by Dean Thomas,
Very
who was
popular, yeah.
Yep. And so I'm like, okay, let me check this out. Maybe they just have striking, right? Didn't want to do grappling, didn't want to do jiu-jitsu, nothing like that. So coincidentally, I went to the actual location, and as I pulled up there, he was opening up the door. So I ran behind him. I'm like, listen, I want to train.
And he's like, timing, man.
Yeah, super good timing. And so, I asked him, I'm like, you got any openings? What do I have to do? I want to fight. Yep. And he kind of looked me up and down and was kind of like, all right, kid, just come in and we'll try it out. And I was a little rough around the edges still. Yeah. So I went in and I did some training, and he was like, you got to go into this grappling class. And I was reluctant to do it, and I ended up doing it, and it was actually pretty good. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can continue on with this. And so from that on, I just went all in. 2 days a week, or I should say two training sessions a day, 6 or 7 days a week.
Oh, damn, you were all in.
I was all in, right? And so, with that, I ended up, doing amateur fights and then turning pro about a year later. And then at that time, I was training people on the side. So I was taking people to like Gold's Gym, sneaking them in for $20 a session, just trying to make something happen. Yeah. And by the time I turned 22 years old, I was like, you know what, I want to make this a living. And so I started to develop a good niche for myself in the industry and also in the area for sure. Mm-hmm. So I opened up my own facility, 22 years old. It was like 800 square feet, something like that. Mm-hmm. Built that from 800 square feet to 1,900 within 6 months, and then went to 11,000 square feet, had over 350 members. But at the time, I'm still trying to be a professional fighter. So now my time is limited, and my focus is shifted. Mm-hmm. So when I looked at it, I go, well, listen, I need to figure out what's most important and what's going to be long term. And that's when I made the decision to ultimately move towards the coaching career. Yeah. And that's when I got the opportunity to work at American Top Team down south for a full-time job. So, and then, obviously things took off from there.
So I've been studying martial arts for 45 years. Okay, long time. Mm-hmm. Never MMA. Never, the sports side of it, more so a very traditional, judo. I come from a judo background. Okay. Aikido and jiu-jitsu. Sure. And then that was, that's been my background for years and years. And what I started to see was, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to dive into this. It's kind of important for me because I've always believed that the martial arts are about respect, first and foremost, right? It's about the mindset. It's about really not just putting a bunch of techniques together to try to build and beat an opponent, but it's almost deeper, like a personal development ride, right? Because you're honing your skill set. I mean, as a fighter, you know, you're obviously getting better every day. You know, you're going out there,
Testing yourself.
it's a development, right? It's that journey. Sure, when you go in the ring and you go against someone, you got to be strategic. You got to know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
But what I started to see a lot when MMA came about, and when I remember the first few Ultimate Fighting Championships, I remember the Gracie and a bunch of the other guys. In some aspects, and I'm not saying Gracie himself, but I'm saying in other people, I started to see just a little bit of disrespect for the art form, and more so just kind of, you know, doing it, you know, in a way that it was just like, I just want to beat this other fucking guy. And it got to the level where almost like the boxing, kind of like the riff, where it was just like boxers calling each other out. And I don't know, I felt like there was a little bit of respect factor that was lost in MMA. You know, your training, how you came about, okay, that respect, that personal journey. I mean, I know it has to be there, but when you took it on, like, was it all about fighting, or was it like, did you want to get better yourself? Or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're always looking to improve, right? So I wanted to develop skills that I could take with me in life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still had a competitive nature about me. So whether it's competing with myself or against an opponent or with a teammate, whatever have you. So it was more about pushing the limits and going through an arduous task each and every day so that I can hone in on the skills. And through that, by definition, you just end up getting better. And so what I wanted to always focus on was figuring out what is the limiter of what is my performance and what do I need to plug the gaps in. And that's where MMA did come into play, because you started to see the gaps. And I started to see them in real time with competition, especially with the grappling situation.
Right.
So, okay, when I find out there is a gap there is a weak link, all right, now I know where I need to focus. And I do that now with my athletes pretty much all the time when we do assessment process. And as far as the discipline goes, I mean, I've always been a pretty disciplined individual, a very disciplined individual. And when it comes down to honing in on a task and then going after it and then figuring out the best way to actually attack the situation.
Yeah.
What I see now, and I think it comes down to, and you're right, probably the boxing mixed in there too as well, because it's an entertainment factor on top of it.
Yes.
And then you throw the sport in there. And so you have individuals that want to make a name for themselves. They want to be famous.
There you go.
And it takes away from the natural art of the situation. So
Yes.
you have good fighters, great fighters that
Yeah.
adopt the martial arts mentality,
Right.
where they do want to evolve. And then you have some that are just showmen.
Right.
And, you know, depending on their background, depending on even their personality, right? That comes down to it too as well. If you're very, you know, extroverted, open-minded, you know, dopamine-driven,
Right.
you know, you want to have some notoriety. They want to be known. And I think the ones that really elevate and make a change are the ones that stay focused on the art of the situation.
Yeah.
And so,
I agree.
you know, you have Anderson Silva and your GSPs. These are guys that really hone in on the
hell
skills and the art of it all.
What was it, Machida?
Yeah, Machida. Yep, yep. And I think that, you know, we had, and Dean used to say this all the time, there was several different categories of competitors or people that fought. And you had your martial artists, which primarily focus on the art of getting better and learning martial art. Then you have your athletes that come from maybe a sport background, right? That was similar to me, right? Because I you know, played football and basketball, all these types of sports. Then you have your competitor, right? They just want to compete at whatever they're doing, right? They can compete, you know, playing cards or fighting in a whatever, in a cage or a ring, whatever. Then you have your true fighters, right? And so if you put these categories together, if you can hone in on all of them, now you become unstoppable. You become a world beater. But typically you don't have that. You have just sections of them. The ones that do the best hone in on all the skills and understand what their capacity is, and then they can make it happen. But yeah, you do see some gaps, and that's where, you know, you have to really find yourself. And the best way that an athlete or a martial artist can really evolve is to have introspection. And so understanding thyself has always been important just for anybody.
That's huge.
It's huge for anybody. Yeah. And, when you're young, you're in your 20s, you don't really know what you want.
That's true.
You're just trying to experience everything.
That's true.
And now in my late 30s, I'm aging myself now, I can identify, what I truly want. But it takes some time. And I think that with fighters, and I say this all the time, it does take about 10 years to really identify who you are in the sport, right? Especially when
to actually
martial
mature
arts.
In the sport, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Because you have to go through some things.
Sure.
And, working with these elite individuals, I've always found like you'll see guys that are taking certain aspects of their game and trying to mold it into one frame. Mm-hmm. But when they find out how to really make it their own, that's when they become world class.
Yeah.
And I kind of saw that with a few of my guys that I've been able to work with throughout years. And you could see them evolve and adapt and be just better humans overall. Not just worrying about the fighting, but also taking care of their family and doing what they need to do.
Sure. Sure. I came up and I fought a lot, barehanded.
Yeah.
I fought, even with the little rinky-dink, little gloves. I remember, I forget their names, like from Century and crap like that. Yeah. Those kind of, back then though, but it was kind of crazy because a lot of the martial arts and like the kung fu tournaments and things like that, the referees were just some dude they would let you just beat the shit out of each other to the point where you're like, there are no freaking rules, there's nothing. And
I can imagine.
It was I felt the times that I got my ass kicked, I felt like I learned more from those times than the times that I won.
Absolutely.
Because I got my ass kicked several times, and I was like, "What the fuck just hit me?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Wait a minute!" And you talk about being evaluating, self-evaluation, and being having that sense of trying to understand who you are and what you just went through. Wow, man.
Yeah,
that was powerful.
I think in the beginning, it's like you gotta be accountable, right? You gotta hold yourself accountable to the situation. What happened is on you. Right? It's not about your teammates or your coaches or even the camp that you're working with. And that's a problem that I see with a lot of fighters is that as soon as they have a bad fight, they end up switching camps because they didn't really take.
Oh, so they jumped? That's a normal thing.
Pretty normal. Really? Unfortunately, yeah. Huh. And it may not be, maybe it's not a camp, maybe it's a coach.
Okay.
But they're not taking accountability.
Grass is greener always on the other side.
Always.
Right.
And so accountability first, then understanding. And then that'll be subject to change in the positive way. But I think that a lot of people have a negative connotation of losing a fight and equaling that out to failure. Where I do think that for me, I lost plenty of fights that I should have won because of mistakes that I made, because of not focusing. And that's on me, right? I should have made a better decision on scheduling. I should have focused on a particular task instead of being thrown in so many different directions. And when I did that, when I understood it, then I made the decision to make a change in the positive way so that I can get the goal accomplished. I had a, excuse me, I did a 100-mile ruck just recently. And
damn, that's a long way.
Yeah, so we did 100 miles. I did 20 miles a day, 5 days straight. And I did it for the military veterans. And I did it for myself, too, as well, and to help inspire people to get up and make it happen. But before that, last year, I attempted it the first time and didn't really have, real structure, didn't know what exactly I was going to do. I didn't have really a plan. And I decided I was going to do 150 miles, and I was going to do 50 miles a day with 70 pounds on my back with no real training, mind you. I did a little bit, but it wasn't strategic. So I ended up in the hospital on the second day with rhabdomyolysis and my feet torn apart.
Lord.
And so I go, all right, I can learn from this situation. I'm laying in the hospital bed. I look up and I'm like, did I fail? Or is this something to learn from? And so I cannot fail if I don't quit. And so I waited. I organized the plan, and obviously I had to make a schedule and had some time to understand what went wrong. And then I reorganized it. I put together a better team. I put together a better roadmap. I made more strategic planning. And then I had a full 16-week program set for this thing. And then ultimately, I ended up getting the job done and doing the 100 miles that I set out to do.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, they look at it as, okay, this is an arduous task. It's going to be very difficult. You may not be able to do it physically, but I think on a long enough time horizon, you can get anything done as long as you stay the course. And so I was like, okay, let me expand this out a little bit more and at least get the things done. It's going to be tough. 20 miles a day with 50 pounds on my back. I made some changes, but I knew I had to get it finished. One, because I wanted to raise enough money for our military veterans, and I wanted to get the job done. So I made that transition. I made those small changes, and now, we made it happen. So that was something that I can take across the board, right? You look at all of your so-called failures, and you learn from those failures. You learn from the losses. And I think that a lot of people just stop trying to learn, and they look at it as, okay, I can't do it. That's the biggest problem, is like now people don't want to pursue an arduous task because they feel like they may not be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's just you're not giving yourself enough time.
When did you make that switch where you said, okay, this is it for me, like no more fighting, now I'm going to start coaching and teaching other people?
Yeah, so it actually ended up happening abruptly. I was 2 weeks out from my last fight. I was sparring. It was technical sparring, meaning like we were just working technique. And one of my training partners he's been my training partner for now 6 years at that point. So we knew each other well. It wasn't like we were trying to kill each other. And he just did like a spinning back kick. And as we were just 50%, I didn't really take it too serious. And I slipped it slightly, and he came down hard on the back of my head, and I was concussed. That was fine for the training session. I finished the training session, but I was still dizzy. I had all the signs of symptoms, nauseous, everything. I couldn't see, the light was bothering me. And because I had 2 weeks left, I was like, damn, I didn't want to go into the fight semi-concussed. So I went to the neurologist, and they ran some testing, and they said, if you don't stop, you have a lot of things going on in there. Mind you, I've been playing football since I was 8 years old. So my first concussion, I was like 8 or 9. And I probably had about 9 or 10 concussions that I can remember. There was times when I was on the football field, especially in high school, I was on the field thinking I was on the sideline. I was on the sideline thinking I was on the field. And that's scary, especially for a, 15, 16-year-old kid.
No doubt.
Yeah. Then you go into college, and now you're fighting another spot. And now I'm a gunner on a kickoff team busting through a wedge made up of 200-300 pounders. And that's constant every day, because you're trying to fight for a spot. So fast forward, now I'm going into combat sports. Now it's a little bit more controlled. I can defend myself, but you're still going to, catch some blows to the head.
Of course.
So anyways, then, doctor told me basically if I don't stop, I'm going to have Alzheimer's by the time I'm 50. And I go, okay, well, I know he's probably over-exaggerating to a degree, but I didn't want to take the chance. And at that point, my coaching career, my gym was blowing up. When I say blowing up, it was doing well. It was successful. And I had a call with Dean, and I took about a week to really just try to conceptualize it a little bit, right, and digest it. Because ultimately, it's been 6 years, remember, 2-a-days every day, building up to, trying to be the best.
That has to wear on you, man.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, again, I have to make a pivot. I had to pivot out of football. Now I have to pivot out of this. But again, I started to look at what I was doing and my natural God-given talent, and then the skills that I've acquired through the talent that he has given me. And I go, well, I think the route is, what God is telling me to do is to coach and lead. And so I called Dean and I said, listen, what do you think I should do? And he goes, man, if it was your back or your knees or something, maybe we can work around it, but it's your brain. You don't want to work around that. And he's like, you're already doing really well at the coaching. I was like, just go after that. And I was like, I took a night, I slept on it, I woke up, and I just ultimately was like, you know what, I canceled the fight, obviously, and then, went full time. And then the doors opened up for me to go down south and pursue that with the American Top Team. So I was able to kind of work in the environment that I still wanted to be around. And I still train. It's not like I don't train, but I'm not sparring hard. I'm not doing any of that. And it allows me to still be a part of it without, the trauma.
So what was your niche, or what is your niche? What is your focus point when you are coaching?
I mean, still to this day, it's really trying to hone in on improving on all the factors that help an individual be the best person they can be, whether it be an athlete or any general population, doesn't matter. And we have to find out what exactly they're missing. What are their limiters? What are their weak links? And like I said, I plug the gaps. I want to improve on people's performance, but I also want to do that with order and obedience. So I want to not only strengthen their body, but their mind, their mentality on life. Mm-hmm. That comes with the weight room, because in the weight room, you have to go through some difficult situations, right? You have to put your body through some strain in order to cause an adaptation. Mm-hmm. And so I think through strength, right, it develops the perseverance that you need for life. Yeah. And if I look back at it, it all revolves around the weight room for me. Mm-hmm. Because the gym taught me a lot about how to evolve. It taught me a lot about life in general. Mm-hmm. Having to overcome difficult situations and having to strain and having to push through, putting through force and absorbing force and redirecting it in a positive manner. Mm-hmm. So when I look at strength, I don't look at it just as a physiological adaptation, right? I look at it as a full encompassing thing where you tie in mind, body, and spirit. And so if I can do that for an individual, now I've really done what I've been doing, or what I should be doing, as a purpose. Mm-hmm. So I have to identify what is my purpose. One is to know and love God, hands down. Yeah. Second is to work through the talent that he has given me. Mm-hmm. And that takes some understanding of who you are.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I go, well, this takes some time, and it goes in years, and I'm like, man. And I try to peel back the layers a lot of, like, what is the actual talent? Mm-hmm. And again, yes, it's maybe you can look at the skills that I've acquired, which is getting people stronger, getting people performing better, endurance, whatever have you. That's a byproduct of what I do. Mm-hmm. But it's being able to identify an issue and then fix the problem with proper communication skills and the passion to do the thing. I want to learn consistently because it gives me more tools. Yeah. And so when I, again, peel back the layers, I can understand exactly how I attack a situation through that framework. Yeah.
Do you believe you're doing God's work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't be going through my purpose if I didn't do that, right? Mm-hmm. And again, what is God's work in a sense, right? It's one, the love of an individual. Now, what is love, right? So love, St. Thomas Aquinas says, to will the good of the other. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm willing the good of someone, meaning I want to see them evolve and I want them to do good, meaning I want them to get closer to God because God is good. So then how do I do that? Well, I have to live in virtue, first and foremost. So I can be a beacon of that. So they can look at me and almost say, okay, if he's doing it, I can do the same. Mm-hmm. And so it's a reflection of my actions. So I also have to be that person. I can't just say one thing and do another. So again, that's why I work.
You're on to exactly where, of course, I mean, that is, I could not agree more, because a lot of men, they lead by talking.
Of course.
But as those who lead as a beacon, as someone that other people around them could look up to and say, hey, I want to be like that man. Mm-hmm. He represents, honor, integrity,
exactly,
serving for a higher purpose. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the problem is that our society now kind of looks at that in a way that is almost demeaning. And we see a lot of soft men out there that don't, they don't even understand. Those words that came out of your mouth right now, they don't even understand what that means.
It's unfortunate.
So it's good that we have men like you, leading
that.
other men,
Same.
pushing and helping them see the light, man, because we need people like you.
Well, we need people like you too as well.
Thank you.
And that's why we're together, and that's why we connected. I think that I have a group of individuals, I have a community now that I've developed, and I had a conversation with a coach last night, actually. And, it goes in many factors, right? Because some of them want to learn how to improve their performance, but then they go, well, how do I be a better man? And I go, okay, now this is a different story. Same aspects in some way, right? Because as you improve your performance, your strength, you have to develop some fortitude,
Sure.
right? And on top of that, you have to have temperance, right? You need to forego, or you need to, I would say, pursue the arduous task. And with that comes an understanding of who you are, right? And then I also think about it like, how do you want to be known, right? And I don't mean that in the sense of egotism, right, or pride, right? I think of it as, how can I be someone of authority and influence, right, per se, for someone that's looking for guidance? That's what I mean by setting the standard.
Right.
So if I set the standard every day, and I have to audit myself, because I'm not perfect, nobody is.
That's
Right?
right.
It's funny, I'm Catholic, so my goal is to go, I want to have to go to confession every week. Right? That's my goal, right? That's what I want to achieve. And I told him, like I said, listen, the goal is to not, when you go there, you don't have nothing to talk about. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Never going to happen.
Be tough. Yeah.
But that's the goal,
Yeah.
right? So you pursue it, right? In the sense of, now I'm getting better because of the pursuit.
Sure.
And the problem is everybody wants the result. They want the vacation.
Sure.
They don't want to fall in love with the process.
Yeah.
And so I think with my faith and with my direction and my understanding of virtue, I'm constantly assessing the situation, having conversations, having an argument. Why did you have that argument? Was it ego? Was it pride? Can you take a step back and look at it from their perspective? And then it gives you an understanding of how you can address the situation in a calm manner, in a manly manner, right? Because a lot of men nowadays, and young men, they are driven by ego, right? You want the nice car, you want the attractive girl, you want the good clothes, you want the watches, whatever. I would rather them focus on finding themselves first.
100%.
Right? And getting in tune with the soul.
Yep.
And being in alignment with the first cause.
Yep.
When you can do that, all those other things may come, if it's a part of God's will. Because it's not my will, it's your will be done. And that's the point.
I have a saying, to everything that I do it for the glory of God. It doesn't matter what it is in the end.
Absolutely.
That's the way that I think and I roll. Now, doesn't mean that I'm not going to go out there and be a wolf hunter. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go out there and not be a shrewd businessman, negotiate and fight for what is right. But we in our community, we have something that's very powerful, which is sincerity of heart. Right? It's called makoto in Japanese, right? It's when you're doing something, you're doing it out of the heart. There's meaning there. There's intent there. And I think that a lot of young men, I don't even want to say young men, a lot of men in general, because I've met a lot of guys in their 40s and 50s that are completely lost in their way. And I think that people are missing that living with intent, right? Living with a belief system, something that they will die for. And you talked about legacy a little bit ago, where people you want to leave some type of legacy. Look, as a father of kids, as a husband, I don't know if you're married or
Oh yeah, married with kids,
okay,
3.
with kids. So
Yep.
so as a leader of your home, as a leader of your house, I mean, leaving a legacy is not so much for the whole world to remember you,
100%.
but your kids
Exactly.
and your family and their kids. I mean, to me, that is almost. I think that any man that is worth his salt, right? I mean, has to want that, like for to be remembered by his kids and his grandkids, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I do believe that men were naturally ambitious. It's just in nature, right? Because we need to get after it in order for us to take care of the family. That's what our the inclinations are. And I would say that you just got to fine tune that to where it's not a negative situation for yourself, meaning that you can't be overly ambitious to where you cause harm to another individual.
Of course.
Right? And that kind of goes hand in hand with either the ultimate good or the apparent good, right? Is the apparent good just for your own self-benefit?
That's right.
Right? Or is it for the ultimate good to do God's work, right? And so whenever I'm making a decision, I go, well, is this something that is going to benefit all parties, or is it just for my own benefit, right? And so when I look at life, every day I wake up, first of all, as soon as even before my feet hit the ground, I'm praying to God. Because I want to get armored for the day. Because I already know there's going to be some things going on, right? There's going to be problems I don't have to solve. I don't have to decide or cut off what is necessary and what is not. And so the biggest problem that I see is that people don't know what to decide. And so they go in all different directions. And they lose focus on the main purpose. And that creates temptation. That creates loss of that focus. And people go, and especially young men, they go down a wrong path because they're stifled and stopped by temptation. So you asked me about, me doing the work of God, and I would say that if I can eliminate or reduce temptation through virtue, and then audit my situation every day, then I will be better off for it. And it'll allow me to set the standard for my family to understand what I'm doing is for them, But it's tough. It's a tough situation.
How old are your kids?
So I have two stepdaughters. One is 22 and one is 20. They just turned 20. And then my 11-year-old boy. Yeah.
Oh, so you have your hands full. Dynamic situation there.
Super dynamic. Now, I've raised my girls since they were 7 and 9. And my wife is 8 years older than me. I hope she's going to kill me for saying that one. But she's beautiful. She looks younger than me. I would say that I had to grow up fast, right? So I had to step into another leadership role immediately at 22 years old.
Wow.
Now being 37, I'm looking at it as this is something that I've been working towards my entire life. This is what I've been put here to do. When people ask me what do you want to be known for? Well, first and foremost, I want to be known as a person that had high faith, right? I want to be known for a leader in his particular field. And I want to be as virtuous as possible, meaning that I'm doing all things through Christ, and I'm making sure that I'm setting the standard, and when I leave this earth, I have a good place to go to.
Yeah. I mean, that's, that's the mentality. And if we had it, if I had it any other way, I mean, every young man coming through school would have some guidance in faith, some guidance in at the very least understanding what serving for something greater than himself is about.
Sure.
Like you said earlier, young generation now, everything is about ego, everything is about self-serving, and there's a huge gap there where they're not understanding the process. A lot of young men don't want to endure the process. They rather just try to, go out there and fake it and act the part and be egotistical and bring down their elders. And look, we have a father and son program here, right? And one of the things that we focus on more than anything is understanding that young men need to have respect for themselves, respect for the elderly and their fathers and mothers, and then respect for other people, respect their competition, respect people who are faster, wiser, smarter than them, because you have to respect the process. If you don't, if you think that you're just so damn good, there's always going to be someone better than you, man, across the board. Someone richer than you,
for sure.
Someone ahead of you. So
it's humility.
Yeah. You got to just be humble and stay the course, man.
Absolutely.
And have that sense of, look, I am in this world where what's the best version of me, right? What's the best version of me? And if we could start tweaking minds to start thinking that way, you'll start seeing a lot of less divorces. You'll start seeing a lot less, kids out there doing drugs and all sorts of crap, so
it's unfortunate to see like the kids not getting the proper guidance. Right. And then that's where it goes back to fatherhood. It goes back to where is the father, right? And then those fathers don't have a direct tie-in with the father.
Yeah.
And that's where you start to see them go astray. And then what ends up happening is they feel like they're not good enough, right? Those kids end up going to the drugs. They end up being addicted to certain, vices.
Sure.
Where we as men, as a whole, we need to hold down the household, right? We need to make sure that the household is taken care of from a security standpoint,
Sure.
right? Now, we can get into, I don't want to get into like, men's place and women's place or anything like that. But, we all have our roles, right? We all have our responsibilities. Now, the problem here is that when we don't fall into our role and do our responsibilities, it falls back on the mother. And the mother can't be the father. It's just impossible, physiologically, psychologically.
There's
There's no shot, right? They're not capable because that's not who they are, right? So as men, and this is going to be something that I want to give to everyone. As men, we have to, again, lead by example. So every day I wake up before my family gets up, start my prayers, I go through scripture, and then I'm out, physical, doing something physical, going for miles, whatever I have to do. Come back, I'm full of sweat. So by the time my son wakes up, he sees me sweating. I'm still there, I'll take him to school, and then I'm back to work again. He sees me constantly trying to evolve myself, still to this day.
That's great.
And I think that we lose that when you don't have a father there in the household.
That's
so
tremendous.
They go, what do I have to, show myself for? Like where do I model myself after?
Right. Right. So let's talk a little bit about, in general, the world of personal development and the world of this coaching, and you see it everywhere, right? Everybody wants to be a coach of some way, shape, or form. You got guys that are gurus that never done anything with their lives. You got guys that have done a lot with their life and now are shifting their focus to leading and coaching. But when it comes like you've done it, right? You've been there and you've done that, right? So the value, at the very least, when it comes to fighting and right? So the value is there. The takeaways are there. When men come to you or people come to you for training, what do you think is the number one thing that they're seeking, right? Well, what is it that they want?
Oh, they're seeking guidance, first of all, right? There may be something missing in their game where they feel like they need to gain an edge or they need to find out what is missing because they don't really know too much. And so the guidance needs to be there. The coaching needs to be there. The leading needs to be there. The teaching. The informing, right? And when you look at it, they just don't know what they don't know. And so what we want to do is we want to give them first an understanding of what they know that they lack. And that comes down to an assessment process. And so I have a framework that I use, which is, you need to assess, evaluate, we indicate the problem, we formulate the plan of action, and then we reevaluate once it's all said and done. And what that reevaluation shows us is, did we get better or did we get worse? Or did we stay the same? And so that kind of categorizes our tools and what we need to improve upon going forward. The assessment process can be an eye-opener, right? Because then it really shows you what you are lacking. And so you need to have some humility. You need to let go and let someone take over the situation because you don't have any control over it yet. And again, that comes down to obedience and humility. And the guys that make it to the highest level, they have that humility to do it. Now, they have full confidence in themselves, but they know that they need more. And so that's what I provide because I'm an outsider looking in, right? When they bring me on, I'm looking at the lay of the land. I'm studying film. And again, whenever you look at any war, the general needs to be far away or have some type of bird's eye view to understand the lay of the land. They can't be in there fighting all the time because now they're just being reactive, not being proactive. So if you're in it, you only see what's in front of you. But if you can take yourself out of it, now you can see the whole spectrum. And now we can organize a plan of action.
So talk to me a little bit about your upbringing, your family, and you were telling me here that you were, your father was in the military. Let's get into that a little bit. I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was he was a thoughtful man. He wasn't a hard-nosed guy. He was a hard worker for sure. I barely seen him. to be honest. He worked a lot. After I was about 4 or 5 years old, he got out of the service, and then, he was working nonstop. So I would see him come home at 3 o'clock in the morning, then wake up, go back to work, and then so my mother really allowed me to venture out and like really find myself. Unfortunately, like I said, I didn't have a full father figure like that in the household. My mother was very strong-minded. She was a paramedic firefighter, and that's ultimately how I started working out, was actually helping her get ready for the fire department. I was like 4 years old. Remember like coaching her up.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was very strong, just physically and mentally, But ultimately at the end, they ended up having some substance abuse issues, and my mother and my father both passed now 6 years from here. So the problem there was that, I'm growing up in rough neighborhoods, from Dania Beach all the way to Deerfield, and I had to fend for myself for a lot of ways, and had to figure out exactly how I was going to defend myself in a lot of ways. That's why martial arts came into the being, And so, when you go to your house and you don't really feel comfortable in your own house because you feel like it's going to get broken into tonight, well, that's a problem, And that as far as being a law enforcement, it's like,
yeah.
It's like, you see a lot of stuff and you don't want to go that route. And I think that, it kind of made me more resilient to pain and going through difficult situations, seeing death at an early age in my life.
I bet.
Constantly,
Sure.
It'll evolve you in some way, sometimes negative if you don't put it into a positive, and you don't look at it as you can reframe into a positive, because I think fear has two different sides to it. It can be negative and positive if you reframe it the right way. Fear of danger, obviously that's there, and you need to have that. But then I could look at it two ways, right? You're a fighter. I could look at fear as it stifles me, stops me from actually pursuing an arduous task, or it can help me get ready for it, prepare accordingly.
Sure.
Like Mike Tyson always just said, like, I was in fear for my life until I stepped into the ring.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, okay, I'm allowing fear to now get me out of bed and work hard.
That's a great saying. I never heard that. That makes total sense.
Yeah. I need something like that.
Yeah.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, then life at that point becomes just meaningless tasks that don't really amount to nothing in your own mind, because there's no fear at the end.
Yeah.
So when I look at it, I got to get, so again, 100 miles, right? 100 miles needed to be there because I knew what it felt like at 50 miles when I got put in the hospital. And why would you do it again? Because I didn't finish it. And so this is the only thing that is going to get me to the point where I need to prepare accordingly.
Yeah.
I'm doing a marathon in April. Like, I could do a half marathon, but I already did that. So that's not going to get me out of bed and have me run when it's dark out or when it's raining or when I got to go back tonight and do 6 or 7 miles. It's not going to allow me to do it because it doesn't drive me to do it.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Of course not. So you're going for a full marathon?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, 26. So I've done the half. I did the 100 miles, and then after this 26, I'm gonna go ahead and do a 50K at the end of the year. Yeah. I'm slowly progressing. So, like, again, slowly progress in the intensities of what it is, right? The difficulties of what it is, because it needs to be, I don't want to say attainable, but it needs to be tough enough to where it drives you. But again, you still don't want to overstretch.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Mentors coming up. Anybody?
From the training side, Louis Simmons, Westside Barbell, he's was instrumental in my approach to programming, periodization, the attacking on the weight room. He passed not too long ago, but it was one of those things where, like, he kind of set the standard in the gym. You could tell, and it allowed me to formulate my programming the way I do now.
So you took a lot from him.
A lot, yeah. I mean, a lot of my programming, like, I coined the term condensed conjugate, which the conjugate method is nothing but a 4-day-a-week split, dynamic and max effort on 2 days each, and you split it up by 72 hours so that your nervous system doesn't get overdrawn. But what it allows you to do is hit both sides of the force velocity curve, meaning you gain power and strength simultaneously and vertically integrate. So it allows for individuals, athletes, especially that are training nonstop all the time, to have no off season, to be fully ready and prepared at all times. So I took that and I condensed it into a 2 and 3 day a week model because of the frequency of training that I had available. for fighters. You know, we have to skill train, we have to do all these other things. So I condensed it down, and it was something that has been beneficial. Now, I've been working the conjugate method since I was in high school playing football. And so I was like, you know what's going to be the best way to organize a plan of action for these types of individuals, for the circumstances and situations that I have. And it works out well, you know, and I've had over 5,000 coaches use the Conde conjugate model with their own benefit, and obviously making some tweaks and changes for their circumstances, but it's been good for everyone, you know, so I'm happy.
Now the process is you coach coaches and you build them up and you teach them how to coach.
It's more of a director role now. I've kind of transitioned to. I work with some, you know, private companies and some teams and things like that, and I have my high level individuals, like my high level athletes, some celebrities and stuff, but you know, I take a director role across the board. So if they have a nutritionist, they have a physical therapist, a massage therapist, I kind of play like a head coach role in that sense and try to organize and adjust things accordingly across a full spectrum. So I'm leading the way with that. Nice. When it comes to coaches, it's just kind of giving them what worked for me and what didn't, you know, and try to eliminate the pains that I went through.
I bet. So let's kind of focus a little bit on, you know, your diet and how you live your life, and you know, what do you do when you wake up in the morning? Give me an idea.
Yeah, it's very structured. I wasn't a conscientious person until I had a family, and I was like, I need to structure some things out, you know. And again, trying to fine tune my day to where I'm spending the most time at the most important tasks, so that it frees up a lot of my time, right? And I think with you know, a lot of people talk about discipline, and then it equals, you know, Jocko said discipline equals freedom. I believe that, you know, but I also think that if you set a routine, it allows you to be disciplined first and foremost. So like the routine is something that is set in place, and I don't too much deviate from the routine unless something happens, like you know, an emergency or something like that.
You thrive off it, right? I mean, that's
and you know, it changes your mentality on life, because like when you block out time, you know that you're focused on that individual task at that particular time, and nothing else matters.
Yes,
you can get a lot done doing that. So in the morning, like, you know, I try to obviously get up as early as I can, you know, especially if I'm able to get at least 8 hours of sleep. With that being said, because when I was in my 20s, I was able to ride off of 3 hours of sleep. Now I'm getting a little older, you want to have that, and so I found that 7 to 8 hours is solid for me. Wake up, first thing I do, obviously, I will say my prayers. I will go into scripture, usually some Psalms or something in the gospel, and then I will do my rosary. So I'll pray the rosary for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then if I'm not going to Mass at 8 o'clock, I'm usually on the road hitting my miles, so getting ready for the marathon. So it's something spiritual, something that is going to stimulate me psychologically and spiritually, and then also something physical. And then from there I can set the tone, and then my work day begins.
What do you eat? Like, give me an idea.
Depends on the training day, right? If I'm doing 2 a days, right? If I'm doing a run and a lift, my carbohydrates are going to be pretty high, fairly high, especially because I'm putting more miles on the road now. Right now I'm taking about 300 to 400 grams of carbs on my 2 a day session days. 2 to 250 on my non 2 a days, which is only really 1 day a week. And then I have my 2 fasting days, Wednesdays and Fridays. It's more of a Daniel fast, so I'm not doing any meat. I'm doing all vegetables and some fruits and some carbohydrates for the actual energy. And then I'll do either eggs or fish, somewhere around there, and especially on Fridays, because that's kind of what we do as Catholics.
So when you eat, for the most part during the week, you're eating what, meats and chickens?
Yeah. So protein is pretty heavy. It's like 1 gram per pound of body weight, or somewhere around there. You know, I'm about 200. Well, actually, no, I lost 10 pounds, so I'm about 190 right now, 192, which is good for me because it allows me to be faster, have better running economy, be more springy on my feet. So right around 180 to 190 grams of protein. That's kind of consistent across the board. Yeah, and then fats are kind of sprinkled in. offsetting the carbs.
Outside of your days where you sort of fast, you do it your way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever like do a fasting for half a day, what do you believe?
Well, I just got done with
meant?
I just got done with a 72-hour fast, and that was the continuation of Advent going into Christmas, and so I did that more for spiritual reasons. And the goal with that really is to get closer to the first cause, to God, and whenever you feel hungry, whenever you feel like you want to give in to temptation, then I go to prayer, right? So it allows me to get closer in that sense. And it allows me to appreciate what I have. Sure. Along with that, I don't have to worry about actually making food, finding food, ordering,
That makes it easy. Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier, and then you become more mentally tapped into the situations of what you're doing. Along with that is you're in a fight or flight state. So now you're constantly in pursuit. Right? When you eat, you're in a rest digest state. It allows you to recover and relax. I didn't want to feel like that, especially throughout the day. Right? I want to be on point. So I need to be mentally clear. 48 hours, right around 24 to 48 hours, it's the hardest time. Once you pass that 48-hour mark, now, you kind of get used to it now. It's not like it's too demanding on you. It's still hard. It's still arduous. But once you do it, you'll become a better person for it.
Do you feel cleaner? Do you feel like
absolutely
a certain sense of?
I feel more spiritually cleansed.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, you could say it's a caloric restriction and you lose some weight. Of course, yeah. Physiologically, yeah, you might have some, they talk about autophagy and all these other benefits from a physiological standpoint, for sure. And I think it does help with my gut microbiome. It does help with digestion, and not having to digest food is important, From a mental standpoint, right, you may help with cognition, right, mental clarity, right, you're not bogged down, and I think also it just is a good reset for your body and for your mind and for your soul. So again, when you look at strength, it's encompassing those three: mind, body, soul. So I'm working on that, and then I'm ordering my body to maintain a routine, right, maintain structure, right? And then discipline throughout that whole entire aspect of the 72 hours or whatever I'm doing. I'll only do a 72-hour every quarter. I'll do a 48, or I should say a 24 every month. And then Wednesday, Fridays, intermittent fast somewhat. It's more about not taking in meat and making sure that I'm not overindulging in certain things.
When did you step into social media?
So it's funny. When I started my gym, I opened up a Facebook account. This was 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. And my wife was like, you need to do an Instagram. And this is 2011. So I'm like, I don't want to put food on my Instagram. This is when all the food pictures were going out. So I'm like, ah. But then I started to see it was taking over some of the fitness world. And so I started putting out content on my social media, on my gym, and then on my own training. I started to catch some traction, and then I developed a YouTube channel just because I wanted to put out content of my athletes training and myself training.
Sure.
Fast forward to maybe 5 years later, and now I have arguably some of the best fighters in the world on the channel, on the page. And they wanted to post it. They wanted to showcase their own training. And
right,
so
they're almost like promoting you by yeah.
Essentially, yeah. And it was a good thing for me. Obviously, helped me build a brand. I only did it if they were, they wanted to do it and they would allow me to. But they were all for it, and they understood the part of having to push the social side of things. Then I found it like, okay, now I need to look at it as an avenue or a vehicle to inform those that are uninformed. So I use that as an education space.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to open up and get opportunities and do seminars across the country and across the world, or around the world, and it allowed me to meet a lot of people through that. Yeah. Meet you, right? Yeah. And I think that, if I didn't need it, or if I didn't have to have it, I wouldn't do it, because it is a distraction, 100%. But it's necessary if you want to do the things that you feel you've been put here to do.
Sure.
And so it's a good, like I said, it's a good vehicle for information, but you have to decipher good information from bad information. Now, because of so much has been integrated in, and it's like you said, with podcasting, there's a lot of podcasters out there. So now the end user has to decipher what is good from bad.
Sure.
And that's unfortunate to them because sometimes they don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
When did you start becoming close to God? Like really to a point where, it became the center of your life and
Well, I've always been spiritual. I've always had an understanding of God to a degree. But it didn't really start to come into fruition and really open itself up with full transparency probably until I got with a good friend of mine who's very well known, who's very successful. And we were on a location and I was working with him and he was just like, and I was bothered by something. I don't know what it was, but it was just something. And then he was like, "Man, what's your problem?" I'm like, "Man, I'm just dealing with a lot of stuff right now." So he asked me, he's like, "What's your purpose?" Crazy question, right? Just off the rip, what's your purpose? And at that point, I was a little irritated. So I go, "And it's, why would you ask me that? You know what it is, just to leave a legacy and just the standard stuff." He's like, "Man, listen, first and foremost, your purpose is to know and love God. And then it's to find the talents, organize your skills around those talents, and then pursue the arduous task, allowing for those people that you want to serve to do it for God." And I go, all right, well, I had to think about it. I took a step back and I go, "It's that easy, huh?" He goes, "Yeah." It's like a lot of people make it hard because they don't have an understanding. And then from there, he took me to a Latin mass, and then I was hooked. Now, I've been to church. I was in and out of the faith for my entire, my 20s all the way up until my early 30s. By the time I was 31, 32, I was like, you know what? I really need to figure out who I am. And so it really allowed me to go all in, and things just start opening up. I can't explain it. It's just opportunities come up. And again, even the bad things that happen to you, you know why, because it's a lesson that needs to be learned. So again, reframing. It allowed me to reframe something that you could call a bad situation and turn it into a good situation because you learn from the opportunity.
Do you ever have, outside of your prayer, do you have any, meditative time, time for contemplation?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you do?
So again, after my rosary, I do have about 15, 20 minutes of just meditation, right? Just sitting in reflection, and then I reflect at night too as well. As a matter of fact, I have a red light sauna, so I'm able to sit in there and just reflect and just take everything out, not be on social media, cut away all the electronics, and just think.
That's awesome.
And breathe. That's it, and it helps a lot. Yeah.
You're, overall, your youngest one, your 11-year-old. Like, what are you doing in your own life to try to guide, as a child? I mean, it's tough to, like you said, fathers do a lot of talking, but a lot of them don't show up, and they're not exhibiting the actions for their kids to see, right? Because I believe that every child, man, they're going to watch you no matter what.
Absolutely.
So what are you doing in your life right now to guiding?
I'm making him aware of my daily activities, right? So I'm keeping him a part of everything that I do, right? Whether it be work, calls, whether it be meetings, whether it be my physical action where I'm in the gym or he comes to the gym with me, right? So I'm not necessarily overly guiding him in the sense of talking to him. I'm action-based. But I still set a framework. I still set standards. And then I watch. I say it one time, and I make sure that if he does it, he does it. If he doesn't, then there's repercussions for it. And by the grace of God, I've been blessed enough where he is taking to it. Some don't do that. I know some kids that have a rough time with that. And I pray for those kids. And I pray for those fathers. For me, I have to, again, give them clear understanding. So my son, I have to give him clear understanding because he's young, 11 years old. So if just like with my team, I have to give them clear direction first. Because if they don't get direction, they don't know what to do. They don't know what they don't know again, right? So first I clear direction, I set the standard, and then I let them act. And if they act accordingly, well, then they're going to get benefited from it. Because now they're becoming their own person, right? So whether it be chores around the house, whether it be, certain things that they do in school, right? Obligations that they have. It's funny, my son came home with straight A's just recently. And my wife, it was awesome. My wife goes, he got straight A's. And my son goes, yeah, it's okay. Just an A. Because we just keep going. And I said, listen, you got to be proud of that, man. You got to be, be happy for yourself. That's an accomplishment, right? So sure. You set that, but at the same time, he's ambitious. Yeah. I just got to hone in on the ambition because it could be negative. So the one thing that I do say to him is I don't say I'm proud of you. I say you must be proud of yourself. And I say I'm happy for your effort. I rather applaud his effort than the actual outcome. And the outcome will be there if he puts the effort in.
Sure.
So that's one of the tasks and the tools that I use.
What has been in your life, like maybe one of those defining moments, right, where maybe you were struggling to the point of no return, and maybe you thought you would never come out the other side? What was one of those times in your life?
I'll give you a couple. I mean, there was one time, just recently with the ruck. It was tough every day. And it was one of those things where I knew that I had to fight that day, and then I had to redo it again and again and again for 5 days straight. That allowed me to identify, like, okay, I can really go through some difficult situations for a long period of time. There's been other times too as well from a psychological standpoint where it's like I've gone through a lot of loss, but I'm still here and I'm still pushing, and I've done some successful things. And I think that as long as you can identify your wins, those small wins, you can gain confidence in anything. The problem that most people have, at least in my opinion, is that they don't count their small wins. They look at the big things that they want to accomplish, and then because it's not there, they don't have it yet, it affects their confidence. It affects their pursuit. So you want to have humility. You want to be humble in your approach, but be confident in your abilities.
Sure.
And that kind of allowed me to do that. So there wasn't one thing I can say. It was multiple things, and it always comes up. And I think if you can put yourself in a position every day or every week or whatever have you to go through something that is going to get you stronger mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you'll be better off for it. And you'll be better from where you were last year. The problem is that a lot of people try to compare themselves to others, right? They look at social media, right? And they're looking at their positions. They're not looking at, looking at other people's positions. They're not looking at themselves.
Right.
Try to identify where you've been last year, last month, or the day prior. Sure. And if it's been better and you're working towards something and you're learning more, you're getting better. That's what you want.
I love that. So in your coaching program, basically, what is it like you're bringing? How are you bringing in these individuals? What is your way to recruit them? Are they coming in through social media? Are they reaching out through different referrals, people?
All of the above. We have some that have been following me for years, and now they've seen me go through stages in my life, right? From the fighter to the trainer, to the coach, to the leader, to the mentor, and now they're like, well, I've seen the progressions of how you've come up. Now I want to figure out. And I've had guys that older than me, younger than me, my age, may have done a lot. Right. The ones that I know that want guidance or need something or need maybe camaraderie, right, and accountability to some degree with somebody that they respect, and the same goes hand in hand. Like, it's reciprocated. I'm not the guy on the mound talking to everyone, right? That's Jesus Christ. That's not me. So I lead through that, and I make sure that
that's a great perspective, man.
Yeah, well, appreciate it. The goal is to, like, make sure that we are all one. We're all in a neutral state. I may have had some lucky breaks. I may have been blessed a couple more times than you, but we're still human beings. So we all can come up together. We just got to make sure that we're setting the standard and holding each other accountable. And that's what the community is all about. It's all about accountability.
For sure.
Now, I'll give you some guidance based on my experiences if you want them. And again, I'll take some too, right? I can always learn from anyone. And that's what
Very
I want.
true.
I want to learn from everyone. Don't matter who you are. I learn from my son. I learn from my girls. I learn from my wife. I learn from you. Because I'm humble enough and obedient, in a sense, to do that.
So where are you headed now, like in your life? Okay, here you are, 37 years old, and you know you've built a pretty good organization. You're continuing to build it. What are the next steps for you?
Stay the course. I really want to fine-tune some details, and I have to be patient. The problem that I had before when I was younger was I wasn't patient enough. I was trying to get it fast, and you know, you hit some roadblocks and you fall down, you stumble. And the good thing is now is I've been through those roadblocks enough to understand that like it's going to take more time than I think. But at the same time, be consistent. You stay the routine, and you get better each day. The main thing that I'm looking for is to just evolve myself as an individual, right?
Yeah.
And so that takes some time for me to take a step back and be a student again. So you might not see me put too much on social media anymore because I need to learn more. I've given all I've gotten, all I've learned to a degree, right? I have a lot to give, but from a training perspective, I've learned a lot. I've done this for 2 decades almost, you know, as a coach, training for 25 years. So I have that, but now it's like, how can I give more, not just from the physical side now, but from a more of a spiritual side, order and obedience and perspective on life, because I know that that's going to help people more so than anything.
Sure.
I can definitely get you stronger. I know that. But how can I get you spiritually aligned with the ultimate good and making sure that you're on the right path to do that? But first, I have to do it. So I can't teach it if I don't do it.
I love that, man. I love that. Where can people follow you? I mean, I know that on Instagram you have a good following. About Facebook, are you on Facebook still? Or?
Yeah. Phil Daru, and Daru Strong is the coaches page, and then Daru Strong across the board from Twitter.
What about your website? Do you have a website?
Yeah, phildaru.com.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, so everything is Phil Daru.
Yep, everything's Phil Daru.
All right, we'll throw those links at the show notes. And,
appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
People.
You have a great podcast, by the way, man.
Thank you, man.
I'm glad I was on it, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man. I mean, it's we just shoot the shit and
yeah,
get to know
man.
each other.
Yeah, it's dope, man. Appreciate
That's awesome. Last question here. In your mind, okay, what do you think are the most difficult things that a man has to go through to become a man? Right, like the most difficult and most challenging things that he must overcome to take it to the next level, right? You know, a lot of men stay under that it's almost like that wall that's capping them, you know? What do you see from your coaching? What is it that men are trying to just get out of and overcome?
Common themes, I would say pride, ego, right? Emotionally disconnected.
That's a big one.
Right.
Yeah.
And not being patient enough through a certain circumstance. What I mean by that is they react instead of reflect, and then organize more of a thoughtful action after they've reflected. Whereas that if somebody does you wrong, if somebody disrespects you, I'm going to get after them.
Yeah.
Because I'm a man.
Yeah.
Because I need to showcase who I am. Listen, we're all God's children. Love thy neighbor.
Right.
Again, we talked about love, but I think that finding purpose, understanding your virtues, being obedient, obeying the values that you have for yourself, that you set for yourself,
Sure.
you will become a better person. That's across the board. It doesn't have to be men. It could be women too. And understanding your place in society, in this life, because this isn't it. This isn't the only thing.
Right.
It's funny. I was, you think a lot in the shower, right? That's like the most time you think, right?
Yep, sure do.
I'm in the shower. I go, oh, this is just like a waiting area.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a test. All of it is.
Yeah.
And so if I'm being tested, I have to be prepared for the test.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to educate myself accordingly so that I can pass the test, so that I can get the success of what is coming to me. And so a lot of people think this is it. It's not. And that's where we have to fine-tune our understanding.
Yeah, man. I believe that too. Well, thank you, man, for
My
being
bro.
on.
Appreciate
Okay,
it, bro.
powerful
Thank you,
conversation.
brother. Appreciate
All right,
it.
I really appreciate you being here, man.
Awesome.
And we'll definitely do this again.
Let's do it,
All
bro.
right, God bless, man.
God bless.